Greetings, Candice. Hi
Hi.
from Istanbul. Where are you right now?
I'm currently in the US. I'm in Seattle with my parents.
Great.
Uh,
Well, I'm in Istanbul. I'm currently in a lockdown because it's quite late here. Therefore, I'm in my
I
living.
got there's the curfew, right?
Yeah. So, where are you? What are you doing?
Oh my God, the situation is completely different here. So I'm in Seattle. I'm visiting my parents. They live here, so I'm only visiting and I don't see them that much. And here the situation is completely different. Like they are reopening everything, and we entered like the last stage of ending the lockdown. So almost everything is open, and we can do a lot of stuff, except going to school. But uh, I'm not going to school here, so it's fine. But yeah, very different than the curfew in Istanbul.
Where are you going to school? Are you going to school at the moment?
Yeah, I'm finishing my master's, but it's an online master's. Like I picked it to be online, but it is with a French uni. So I am trying to do that at the moment, and I am studying for my finals that are next week, and that are going to be online too. So I'm going to do that from the US between 5 and 7 a.m.
How are you balancing out with the French online masters and you being in the United States?
Um, I'm trying to have a good sleep schedule, but it is very difficult because, I wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and I have tons of emails and stuff that happened. So it is very difficult to not panic when I wake up. But I'm trying to spare time to watch my classes. So, what is good with my master's is that I can watch my classes whenever I want. We have very few live classes. I mean, it has good and bad sides, but in my case, it is quite a good thing because I can pick whenever I study. Um, and yeah, I was supposed to go back to France where I actually live, and I should start an internship there in April. But then I decided to have my exams here since they are online, and not to travel like an entire ocean and change 3 time zones in the middle of my studying time. So yeah, I'm doing this at the moment and just trying to study, even though it's quite difficult.
So I know you started your master's last semester. So when did you get your bachelor's degree? Was it last year during the pandemic started?
So I got my bachelor actually 2 years ago, and I started the master, but I changed the master in the middle.
When did you
Uh,
start? Where did you start? Was it during the pandemic? How did you adapt
uh,
to situations?
okay, so I got my bachelor in Lyon in France. It was Italian studies, and I started my master's with that same uni in France. But first year of master's is Erasmus time. It is travel time. It is fun time. So I went to Italy, to Bologna, in 2019. And you can see what is going to happen next. But I went there, and I started to study like in an Italian university, but still attached to my French studies. And it was super nice. Like it took me quite a long time to adapt to how they study there and stuff, but it was fine. And I was especially starting to have a good time in January 2020, when I could actually meet people. And also I was done with my classes and I was looking for an internship in Italy that I found. But then the whole COVID panic started, and it started in Milano, so 2 hours away from Bologna. And at that time, I don't know if you remember how it was, but we had no idea what the virus was and how dangerous it actually was or not, if it was an actual thing or if it was just going to pass over 2 weeks or something like that. But everything became very anxious very fast. Like it took Italy 7 days to just close all unis, libraries, movie theaters, restaurants, whatever. And like in a matter of 10 days, we couldn't go out anymore. So I took one of the last planes to France. I remember it was like a low cost company, and I usually pay 10 euros to go back to Marseille, and I paid 200 euros without my luggage. So it was like a whole panic. Everyone was leaving the country and stuff. It was like the airport was all crowded and panicking. Anyway, I arrive in France and I do my quarantine because we had to quarantine at that time. And France wasn't in lockdown yet. France wasn't in lockdown yet, so I did my quarantine, and then I ended my quarantine, and then lockdown started in France. So basically, I spent March, April, like 3 entire months without going out much. I was in lockdown with my grandparents, which was also a full experience because being a student in Erasmus, like financially kind of independent, doing whatever I want in a country that I always wanted to live in, and then going back to the city you grew up in, and that you started to leave, living with your grandparents. It's a big shift, and I've had a lot of trouble to adapt. But eventually, I went back to Italy when lockdown in France ended, so end of May. So I came back there, but the situation was good in terms of COVID. Like most facilities were open, not libraries though, and not uni, which was difficult because at that time I was writing my first year of master thesis. We do that in France, so it was a bit difficult, but still good. But all my friends had left because they weren't from Bologna, and so they were all back to their countries or their city in Italy. So I traveled a bit and stuff, but I don't know, it wasn't like the actual Erasmus experience I was waiting for. And so this is where I shifted my master's. I had no idea what COVID was going to become, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had heard from an online master's with a French uni. So I applied for that and I got accepted at the end of June. I shifted from Italian studies to international relations study. And yeah, it was an online master, so I figured I could stay in Bologna and try socializing again and stuff. It didn't go as well as planned because lockdown again. And even if the restaurants were open and everything, I didn't feel quite safe going there. Like I wanted to avoid catching the virus. Also, I lived with 3 roommates, 3 flatmates, so I was afraid we would share the virus or something. So didn't go just as planned, even though I was happy I could spend some more time in Bologna because I liked the city. And so I decided to finally go back to France this January 2021, and now visiting my parents in the US because I haven't seen them in a year.
I want to ask you,
Ta-da.
when you were quarantining both in Italy and then you went back to France, were your studies like they stopped or you were continuing, or did you have to continue online? Also, because you're doing your master's online, did they offer like this specifically because COVID happened, or there was always this option that you could switch to online masters?
So the new master's that I am doing right now was created like 5 years ago or something, and was supposed to be online. It was for like for workers or people that were living abroad so that they could still have a French education. So it was actually like a good choice for me, I guess, because they were already ready. The classes were ready. They are used to, use all those softwares and stuff. Which was not the case for my first master's, and it was actually very complicated to leave Italy, my studies there, and go back to France. Because what my uni did is that they offered me to join some online classes with the French university that I wasn't supposed to follow. And since I was completely desperate because I had nothing to do with my day except writing my thesis, I accepted. And so I followed a lot of classes that I wasn't supposed to follow, but it was good because I was seeing people, but very stressful. And I was also trying to write my thesis at the same time, but it was in Italian studies, and so I needed access to Italian archives, and I couldn't do that. So I think I kind of wasted my time trying to study during the lockdown, but I didn't study much. And I was also doing my Italian internship that went online. It was with an Italian radio, so I could do 1 week of this internship before leaving, and it was so good. We were going to the radio room and registering the podcast, preparing the topics together, doing live interviews and stuff. And at the end, it was like 3 months of me recording myself on my phone and sending it to the editor, and it wasn't that good. So yeah, everything changed a lot. Today, I'm happy I am in online school, though. Like this online online school, but that is planned to be like this because they were ready and there is no stress or surprise. I enjoy a surprise-free student life.
Because you were doing your last semester thing as the Erasmus, did they offer you a scholarship? What happened to the scholarship when it closed down, when you were sent back? Did they take back the scholarship? How did it work? How did they support you?
Yeah, I was very stressed about that. But Erasmus decided to still grant the scholarship to the students. But I think it was also a help because I did kind of a weird manipulation with my school. I sent them the return ticket that I had like end of June, so that they would send me the full scholarship. But because they are two different services.
Yeah.
And so I did that, but I sent them the return ticket in February for the duration of the Erasmus. So if I want to do another Erasmus, I can still do it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's so cute. But they still gave me the full scholarship. My school also offered the support, like for the people that had to pay their rent for them for that time, since I didn't exactly need it, and it was a very, very small fund. I decided not to apply or anything, so I don't know how it actually worked for the people who applied. But for Erasmus, yes, I could keep the scholarship, and I think it was a decision from Erasmus Plus. Like they decided to still give it. I know it is not the case anymore today, though, because like people are living and they know what is going on. So if they have to go back,
Yeah, probably. Because, you know, I personally was supposed to do Erasmus the semester COVID started, and I was actually supposed to be in Milan. And thankfully, it didn't work out somehow. And like the scholarship that was offered was actually a very small amount. So
yeah.
that actually was a big question, like what happened to the people that were offered scholarships during the pandemic? So thanks for clarifying that for me.
Yeah. The scholarship for Erasmus is very small if you don't. I don't know if you're not financially in trouble. It is very small, but sometimes it can help a lot because not because you have money in your origin country means that you have the money in the country you're going to. So yeah, it was all very chaotic.
All right. Well, I hope this pandemic at least gets better soon with the vaccine and all. Do you know if the school, even the online class, if you hadn't switched, would they have put, for instance, vaccine as a thing to come back to the offline studies? Do you know what where France stands on that occasion?
Yeah, like it is actually very difficult for actual students that are not studying online because they only just reopened uni for very, very small groups of people. So uni stayed closed for almost a full year. And it's something very difficult because like you mentioned scholarship, and the fund that takes care of the scholarship in France also take care of rooms and apartments for people that cannot afford an actual apartment. And so what happened to a lot of students is that they stayed stuck in their 9 square meters room with only their scholarship to leave, because most of them lost their job, like as cashier or something. We all have to small job, babysitting, everything that all went away. So it is very difficult, and they just reopened uni again for very small groups of people. So it is good because people can actually go out. Like everyone was very, very happy because all the rest, like the libraries and everything, they are all closed or limited to a very, very small amount of people. They are usually crowded, and usually overbooked, and you have to go there like very soon because it's crowded. So you can imagine how many people wants to go now. It is very complicated. Like COVID pandemic, blah, blah, really affected me because of the lockdown and everything. But I know it didn't affect me like it affected a lot of students in France. Like some people's situation is really dramatic. And so in terms of like finances, of living alone, not having the family, living in a very small flat and everything. It is still very difficult. Like uni reopening for groups of 10 people doesn't solve everything. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today and
You're
sharing your
welcome.
personal experience with being a student during the pandemic. And I hope to see you soon and talk to you very soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the interview.
Of course. Take care. Bye-bye.